And we are live again, another Sunday, last Sunday of the month, whiskey and lipstick. I have Theresa here with me as always, and our special guest, Marcia Likarish, is here.
Hi,
We love Marcia.
oh, you're so
We love
sweet.
talking with Marcia. We love hanging out and drinking with Marcia. And we are happy that she is here again. Um, Theresa, you were just talking about
Yes.
a tasting that you did last night.
Yes. Yeah, one of the whiskey clubs that I'm a part of, we had a tasting last night. Actually, it was an Adelphi tasting. So we had a whole bunch of different scotches that were all sourced and bottled by Adelphi. Some amazing ones. This Kleinleich that just tasted like coconut. Well, it smelled like coconut, and I've never had a whiskey that smelled so much like coconut as that one. And this, what was the other one? Yeah, there were a lot. There was a Lafroig that would have even the peat heads couldn't take most of them couldn't take that Lafroig. It was crazy, but we got talking about things like finishes and maturation and all that kind of geeky stuff. And I'm gonna
Go ahead.
I'm gonna pull out one of my shelter points that is a double barreled, so it's finished in blackberry wine casks.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're not necessarily going to be talking about scotch tonight, but I do feel a little bit of topics on finishings coming with our chat here with Marcia. As most everybody knows, Marcia is IronRoot Distillery. They are up in Denison, Texas, and she is the mother of whiskey and lives to it too. She was also named, was it 2021 America's?
It'll be 2022 because
2022?
yeah,
Already?
yeah, because it was just announced 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Mhm.
But 2022, America's Distillery Manager of the Year, right?
Yes, that's
Did I
correct.
get it right?
Yeah,
So-
yeah, that was so exciting. It was one of the icons of whiskey. Yeah, and it was just so unexpected, and wow, what an honor, to
Yeah.
to have anybody recognize that, it's just it's almost overwhelming to me. So I feel really blessed to be part of the whiskey group and the whiskey family. I just have met so many wonderful, wonderful people, and have enjoyed our, the time since we've started the distillery, and I love every minute of it. It is, it's always a good time, and there's so much to learn, and there's so many things to share and enjoy, and I think that it's the groups are they're people, are so welcoming, and they're so sharing, and they're so open. I've never been in a group of people, and I'm old. I've been around a lot of people in the last almost 70 years. But the group just so inclusive, I guess, is what I want to say with it.
Nice.
The whiskey group in general, not just whiskey too, but just whiskey people in general have got to be some of the best people that I have met in my life. And they are just giving and supportive and always willing to help. If you don't know about something, they're willing to help you learn about something or share their whiskey. It's just one of the best groups out there. And I have to say, I think that this award is very much appropriately given. We've had several conversations about the things that you do at your distillery that it blows my mind. All of the hats that you wear, all the things that you have your hands in. It's not just making sure the distillery's running. No, you're there doing it. You're hands on and helping.
Gretchen says hi.
Hey, Gretchen.
So that actually that brings something up for me, because I am curious as to what is a distillery manager. I was having this conversation last weekend. I was up visiting some friends, and we kind of got talking about it, completely unrelated to anything planned for tonight. But I was just, what does that actually mean? Because it kind of sounds like it's big and overarching, but then when we talk with you, Marcia, you have your fingers in everything. Like you're the puppet master at IronRoot. From like you're.
Well, that's because I think that it's different probably at every distillery, depending on the size. The jobs are going to be totally different. But for a small distillery like ours, you're part of everything. I think they depend on me most for the logistics, for making sure that we have what we need when we need it. But in order for us to run, that means that you have to help with production, you have to help with bottling, you have to do the tours, you have to do the tastings, you have to do everything that needs to be done. And so if you were at a larger distillery, you would have more people doing different jobs. But of course, they would be bigger. They would take even more and more detail to the logistics and everything. So I think it really kind of just depends on the distillery. We try to break it down so that Robert's in charge of primarily the sales and the all of the logistics of the legal stuff, all of the tax,
Right.
all the stuff. No, I'm not doing that.
You don't want to do.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. And Jonathan really heads up the distilling and the he knows the barrel management and all of that. But he also gives everybody directions on what we're supposed to do in order to help him meet his what he has to have done. So it's just kind of just a teamwork with everybody jumping in. And poor Ashley, she doesn't know what she's doing. Any day she walks in the door, we'll say, "This is what's going on today."
He wrangles the gingers.
Oh man, and poor Ashley was out there. She was watering the barrels down for our next blends and stuff, or she does everything. So but that's what keeps it interesting,
Gretchen says you wrangle the gingers.
Yeah, I have to. Somebody, I've had a lot of practice. I've had a lot of practice.
Yeah, I mean, when you raise them, it just comes naturally, right?
And their dad's too.
Add more to the group, and
yep, just keep them coming.
Yeah,
I think that's excellent. And I just want to. I'm drinking. I have a sample of Harbinger, a total wine pick, at 123.56 proof. So just want to throw that out there. Are you drinking anything tonight, Marcia? Got anything?
You know what? I am. I'm starting with a little bit of cognac.
Ooh. Yes, I remember.
I have a Maison Ferrand's 10th generations, and the reason why I'm starting with this is because we're talking a little bit about finishing, and we have the Saints Alley portion of our blending, besides just the IronRoot, and it depends on finishing. And one of them is a cognac and port finish. Ooh, and one's an Armagnac finish, and one we have a rum finish with that. And even IronRoot has done finishing with Armagnac, and we've got one coming out with Pinot de Charente. And so we've been having a lot of discussions on when you put it in the barrel and what we look for from it and how we approach the blending. And so it's kind of been something we've had a lot of talk on. We do some blending with Saints Alley. Chris Trevino, the liquor hound, it collaborates with us on the blending of Saints Alley. And so I talk about a learning experience when you have so many people to work with. But so that's why We actually have a project with Maison Ferrand. They have plantation rum, and we sent them 40 barrels from IronRoot from our Harbingers.
Ooh.
And it will be part of a project that is released later this year. And they sent us 30 rum barrels and 10 cognac barrels. So we've got all kinds of fun collaborations. So I thought it would be a perfect little toast. And, you know, we're sister cities with cognac, and we're going to have something special coming out in relation to this. We'll talk about a little bit later this year, but it's the 150th anniversary for Denison as a city. And
nice.
So, it'll be we are going to do something kind of with to play on our sister cities. So it'll be fun.
That'll be fun.
Cognac, that's, you know, that's basically just it's brandy that's made in cognac. Is that's correct? Or is there something more to cognac than just being a type of brandy? I've never quite understood, because I find it exciting, and I've enjoyed kind of trying different types of spirits like that, but I don't know a whole lot about them.
Well, and I'm not the person who is the expert. We ought to have Robert in here helping me with this.
Some lipstick.
Cognac comes only from a specific area in France, and they have, I believe, 4 different grape varietals that they use. The most highly sought one would be the Orange. I'm going to say Champagne, but I'm sure they say it a little bit differently than Champagne, right? And they do their Fenoise and a couple of others. See, Nancy should be on this. She was cognac too. But it is a brandy that is recognized only from that area. And it is a wonderful double distilled. They have beautiful specific stills, and they have a lot of people who create the cognacs, and then they're sent to more of the cognac houses. There's like 300 of them with all the small producers. It's kind of the opposite of what we do in the United States. You know, here we're buying from MGP and creating things, and they are creating it at the smaller distilleries, and they don't have to deal with the sales and marketing and bottling and all that. They sell to the houses.
They can kind of sell it up, sort of
sell it up.
Like your farmers. You know, you would. You know, farmers do everything, and then they sell the grain to the people who do something with it. And that's almost like a cooperative.
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of the smaller ones will sell, you know, locally or from their estates and things. But that's how it's a little bit different over there. And then they have another area of Armagnac, and Armagnac is different grape varietals, and it is a single distillation of the brandies, and it's a little bit bolder, and it's wonderful too. Got a lot of depth and complexity to it. In fact, when we did the Saint Alley, we have one that we did with the cognac, and we have one we did with Armagnac. And there's a huge difference in the flavors of them.
Yeah, I've never actually had them individually. I've had things finished in them. Like I've had. It's just one of the things I haven't stepped out into that yet, and I need to find somebody that has some that I'm gonna have to ask Matt. I
was gonna say Matt probably has everything, doesn't he?
I think he does. With the amount of liqueurs that man pulls out of his cabinets, he's got to have some.
I bet if you went to Total Wine and you went and that they have tasting bottles open too.
Oh,
probably let you taste them, because they do have a lot of nice tasting bottles on some things, and they usually will let you taste at least some of it to give you a little bit of an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I love the things that I've had finished in it, but I need to dip my toe in that.
Yeah, I think my favorite whiskey last year was a store pick. I know I talked about it last month. I've probably talked about it every month since I got it, and it's a Teeling, 15-year-old Teeling that was finished in Armagnac, and casks.
See, I'm
And
jealous of you that you
that
have
was
that one.
my favorite. That was my whiskey of the year last year. If I never, go through that. I know people like to come up with their lists. I'm like, who has time for that? But it's the one. Every time I pull it out, I just kind of, wow. And then but I love
have that 15 year, because my 15 year is finished in Oloroso, Teeling. So I'm kind of jealous that you have that up there and we didn't get that down here.
We know people.
Damn Canada.
We were talking the other day about when you do finishing, we do import the barrels, so we bring them in from France, and we make sure that we get the ones that have held the 25-year-old or the older Armagnacs or the older cognacs, because when you get ones that are younger, and we did get a couple of barrels at once, and it's almost like new make. They're 8 to 10 year olds, are like new make, and so when you put something in there, you're going to be aging for a long time, and you're not going to get the flavor of the cognac. You're
not much barrel influence.
You're going to get the oak. You're going to get the French oak from the barrel more than you are the spirit. Sometimes when people, there's a lot of ways people can do it. If they want to take shorter cuts, and you can get a barrel, and they get a bottle, and they season the barrel. Rather than having the aged. And so a lot of times when you do that, it tends to be a little more heavy handed, because you're just getting, like mixing a little bit more of the liquid it's actually in, instead of sitting and really taking and going out into that wood and pulling that old age and those flavors from the wood. So we're really careful about that. The other thing we talked about, it's kind of funny when we talk about, you talk about the Olorosos, and you talk about the cognacs and the Armagnacs. Now, those are all, those are distilled products. Whereas when you put it into a wine barrel, what is the difference you get? And I think that one of the things that I find when I went with the wine finishes is, especially with the whiskeys, is that you have to be really careful about overdoing it. And I think I find this a lot when people are putting wine into whiskey barrels, because what you're dealing with is a lot of raw tannins, because you've got the tannin from the grape. It's not a distilled product. So you've got the tannin from the grape and the tannin from the whiskey. And sometimes those become, I have people all the time say, what do you mean by tannic? When you say something's got a lot of tannin on it. And when you get a lot of tannin, for me, it's that dryness, and you'll feel it on the sides of your tongue and the back of your tongue. And it's very taxing. A lot of times you'll take a drink and you'll say, this is phenomenal. And then you take one or two more and you think, man, I don't know if I can finish this glass. My palate is just like worn out because of the tannins. It's a little bit of that dryness and stuff. And I think that's when you're using some of the fortifieds, you get a little bit more richness and depth with it.
That makes sense, because I've had that happen before. It's like
or even when you get a whiskey that has been in the barrel longer than it should be.
Too long. Yeah.
And that can happen. I mean,
that happens.
You can't. Everybody thinks age is the longer the better, but age is a number. But you got to remember that there's the other half of that is maturation, and that's the character of the whiskey. And the character, sometimes, you have people, some of these expensive ones, people are disappointed because they're thinking they're buying, 30-year-old bourbons, and maybe 30-year-old bourbons aren't really as good as some of the 15s.
30-year-old bourbons are bad. We've had some pretty old bourbons, and they are just nothing but wood. It's like you are drinking a glass of pencil shavings that, and it's nothing but that. It's horrible. Age doesn't mean a darn thing when it comes to whiskey, in my opinion. Yeah.
Age just means different.
Yeah.
Scotch has to age longer because of their climate. But
there's a lot of different things. So it's also like the, used wood versus virgin wood, right? That fresh char makes such a difference.
It does.
And when it's been already had a lot of that flavor extracted, and then you put something else into it, you need to give it time. Different types of spirits as well. When you get those who are distilling to a higher proof, like that's one of the things with American spirits, is that everything pretty well is in that 160 proof or lower, unless you're making a light whiskey. But in other parts of the world, that top number is a lot higher. And I've been surprised with some of the people that I've talked to, and they're distilling into the 90s and like 90%. I'm like, that you're going to have to leave that forever in a cask.
Well, 90% is
that's a whole other thing.
A lot of times leaving it in the casks, when you're drinking a whiskey, do you sometimes, and you can look at ages, but when you drink a whiskey and it is, it's good, there's nothing wrong with it, but you taste it and you taste it again, and it's kind of just the same and the same. There's not a lot of depth. There's not a lot of complexity. There's
no change.
And some of that has to do also not with just the proofs you're pulling off. It has to do with the way you cut the whiskey as it comes off the still. Right. So you have your heads, your hearts, and your tails. Well, you don't want the heads in there, right? Sometimes when you taste whiskeys, and I can taste them in some of the scotches, they're on a timer. And where we taste everything and we adjust as everything comes off the still, but because of the tax structure and the laws, their spirit safes are locked. So everything is kind of done with the time, but so sometimes you can pick up some heads. But the other thing is, as you work through, if you have something like a vodka or you have maybe a lighter whiskey, you're going to have a little bit cleaner cuts with it as you go into the tails. But if you want to do a whiskey, we specifically look at as it's coming off our stills. We know how long we're going to age it. We know what barrels we're going to put it in. We know what product we're looking to have, and we will go into the tails. And the reason why is there's fusel oils there. But those fusel oils are not something I want to drink. I mean, if I'm going to make moonshine, I don't want fusel oils in there because I'm not going to put it in the barrel. But as it goes in the barrel, it interacts with the barrel, and it's like giving your whiskey an additional tool in order to develop character and depth and complexity. And so some of this has to do, as part of the distilling, not just the barrel and the aging.
Yeah. It's funny. The more that I get into whiskey and the more that I talk with people who produce it and do all of those things, it boggles my mind how some brands are able to maintain consistent flavor profiles because, one little shift in the distillation process, something happening with your yeast that was unexpected, something, somebody accidentally makes a cut in a different place. All of those things are just, they shift everything. We were talking last week, the group, we went out to a distillery and did a tour and got talking about, I think it was up at Nikka in Japan. And I mean, this is back 50, 60 years ago. They found that there was always, every once in a while, they would have a batch that would just be heads and tails above everything else. And they were trying to figure out why is it everything that they were being so regimented with everything that they were doing. And they couldn't figure out why this, every once in a while, they would hit a batch that would just blow everything else away. Then they found out that, that was every time this one guy was working the night shift, he was a little bit on the lazy side. And so he would go in and he would do his, his work to clean the still, but he'd phone it in. He just kind of half-assed did it.
He'd phone it in.
He was just kind of, nobody's around to check up on him. And because of that, there was more of those, is it the lactones or something was, he was leaving back the bacteria in the still that was then creating all of these other flavor profiles that it was like, oh, so now they're less regimented with how well they clean things. But it's funny how just one little thing, and all of a sudden you've got this whole other flavor that you're now chasing. And then to get into the wood, I mean, whether you get a bad barrel in the mix, and it can completely shift your spirit. And there are those who will say, oh, well, it came off the still. Yeah, it's a little dirty. It's not really what we were looking for. We'll put it in the barrel. That'll fix it. But you can't fix what's already broke. I don't know. Like I said, it just boggles my mind how many different elements have to come together. It feels like a crapshoot, even when you're following a plan.
And I think that when you have larger producers like the Kentucky big distillers, the Jim Beams, and they're blending, that they have a single mash bill for their each iteration and things, and they also have 500 barrels they're dumping at a time or whatever. Then you have the ability to keep more consistency. Now, when you're putting 10 barrels together, you can't. You have to just blend, and that's why we have small batch, and we say they're not, every batch is different, and but the big guys, they are. I mean, I remember going to Anheuser-Busch, and I mean, they have a meeting like at 2:00, and they have 40 people tasting every single thing, and I mean, it is. When they told me that, it didn't mean anything to me, and now it means a lot to me when I think about all that they have to do. So some of it it has to do with the production size and things, and how automated it is, as opposed to IronRoot. We don't have anything on a computer, and we laugh. I said, if you look at our stills, did you see the black chains in the back? We go by clicks of the chain. That's how they know how they regulate the heat. So I said we're a little bit backwards on that.
Wow.
But so we do not have anything that is automated here.
Wow.
Obviously, you don't need it though, because you guys are doing amazing things at what you do at your distillery.
Thank you.
Speaking of that, and I don't want to forget as we're talking about everything else, but IronRoot has a new release coming out in March.
We do.
Yeah. For the first time.
Yeah.
And in honor of that, since I don't have any of that yet, I'm going to go ahead and drink some Green Spot, and working off of the finishing that we've been talking about too. This is the Chateau Montelena. So it was finished in wine cast. So I'm going to go ahead and drink that, but I want to hear a little bit about what's coming out that I have to sit by my computer and wait to purchase.
Yes.
Online.
I'm looking around, and I don't even see one in here. I'll show you because it's a beautiful bottle. We did something called the Celt 6, and the Celt is a Irish pub down in McKinney, and when we first met them, they wanted to, create for their anniversary, they wanted a whiskey from IronRoot. And so they blended, bourbons, into what the lightest thing they could possibly do. Right. Because they wanted to create something closer to a Irish style. And then they talked Jonathan and Robert into, actually doing a true pot still distillation. We can't call it Irish here,
right?
But what we did is we did a true, more of your Middleton Redbreast. It's going to be the malted and unmalted. So we used an Irish malt, but we used a local unmalted barley, and So we created a pot still distillate, and it's an Irish style pot still. I'm probably going to be in trouble. You're not supposed to say Irish. I'm going to have to say Robert is going to be over here and giving me lectures. Don't trust me.
As long as it's not on the label, I'm sure it's fine to say we can, that style.
The whole idea was to do that style. The actually in McKinney has been chosen as the best like Irish experience pub in the United States, so, and has won all these awards, and they've been invited over to Ireland a number of times and to these competitions. And so they released the first part of it last fall at a 94 proof. And then we decided to hold off and do a 106 proof, a little bit higher, for in March. We laughed. We didn't really have a date. We'd kind of thrown around St. Patrick's Day, and then somebody read one of the articles in the D magazine, and they talked about us releasing it on the 12th of March. So I said, oh, guess we're doing it on the 12th of March. So that will be out. It's very limited, of course, because when we do not have a lauter tun here, which you need to do when you're doing the malted barleys, because it separates the grain out when you're doing your mashing. Whereas when we do our bourbons, the corn is left on and it's fermented on. So we go down, we have a little system where we trade some of our finishing barrels for some still time down at 903 Brewers. And they create the mash. And then it's like we have the tanks, but it's only cereal because we don't add any of the yeast and anything until it's back at the distillery. So that's how we're able to create it. So it isn't like a we do every day.
That's a nice little trade-off there though too. Now I will say I have gotten to try. I think what was the first release? I'm not sure. We got a sample from Robert, and we did a review on it over on the Whiskey Crusaders already. And I like Irish. Let me rephrase that. I love Irish, and I absolutely loved this, and was just okay. I'm gonna have. I need like at least 2 bottles, because are you going to do it again? We don't know.
Oh, probably will. It's Jonathan. They've really enjoyed it. And I think I believe that there is another set that's been put down after the original set. Okay, I'm
going to need some bottles of that one too. So, I mean,
as it comes up, that and the brandies are a little bit slower coming out. But you never know when things are showing up though. The other day, we were sitting and somebody from one of the whiskey groups posted, they were at a bar, and here it was our brandy.
Nice.
Said, wait a second. That brandy was released like it was one of the first things we released because we wanted to have the first Texas brandy from Texas grapes from the distillery done. And there was a man, a historian, and he said, if you can get it out, you'll be the first. So we put it out. So it was what we called an immature brandy, orange muscat grape. It was good. It's more like but there were only like 40 or 60 bottles of it, and it was gone so fast. And all of a sudden, I mean, this where things pop up after COVID at a bar in Dallas, and I said, I don't have any. It's been gone for so long. I have no idea where it came from. But somebody found it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Apparently, my husband says that we're going to need 4.
Oh, I'll tell Robert and Jonathan.
Look for the poppies. Purchasing 4. That must be 1 for him and 3 for me.
It must be.
It's got to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I do love that.
Steve A's going to want a couple too, so he says you need to get 6.
Oh, triple distillation is another nice thing with it that they do with the Irish.
Yes, I do like that triple distilled. I like the pot still. I like everything about Irish whiskey that I've discovered and all the Irish that I've had. Of course, I've learned that I like more expensive Irish whiskey, but you know, what are you gonna do?
You just have good taste, discerning palate.
Yes, there you go. But only with Irish, so it's okay.
Yeah. See, I know I have great taste because I always seem to like the most expensive thing that is on pour.
Why not? Okay, we're gonna buy you out of of this release.
Yes,
apparently
it's now going to be a whiskey and lipstick exclusive because Sarah and Will are just going to buy it all and.
Whiskey and lipstick slash whiskey crusaders.
Yes.
Yeah.
This always saves you from that. They only let you have 2 bottles per driver's license every 30 days, and it won't last longer than that.
Well, see, that's 4 for us because we each have a driver's license.
For each person's, right?
Yeah, I got family in the area. I've got ways.
You got ways. I had a 115 release the other day, and I had the mother came in, and then pretty soon the daughter came in to get 2, and then pretty soon the sister had to come get it, and then the dad came and got it, and I thought, you know what? It would have been so much easier if we could have just said you can just get a case on one, but they came back and they sent each member of the family up to get it, and it was like 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon and 1 after work.
And you got to do what you got to do when you find something that you like. And Texas has stupid laws like that we can just blame that all on the government, Texas.
All on it.
So you can go to a liquor store and buy as many bottles of whatever you want and go home, but going to a distillery and buying a case to take home, that's going to make you an alcoholic. Like,
I don't think it has to do with that at all. I think it probably has to do with a 3-tier system. Mm-hmm. And the more we sell out of the distillery, the less then the distributor gets and the retailer gets. And those are strong lobbying groups within the state, and that's how they regulate it, because we'll have people come up here and buy, and they'll go, and we're next door to the liquor store, and they go next door to the liquor store and buy the rest of whatever it is they want. So,
but the thing about it is like this particular release, it's not going to a liquor store. It's not going to be part of a 3-till retail whatever. It's distillery only. Yeah. So you're not taking anything away from the liquor stores. You should be able to sell however many of those as you want.
Yeah. Well, I guess at least it's not the Netherlands. No, not Netherlands. I can't remember. There's a European country. I can't. Wherever Spirit of Ven is, they can't sell any of their own product at the distillery tasting room. If they wanted to sell their own product, they, because their liquor system is nationally state owned, mm-hmm. They would have to open it as a full liquor store and carry every single bottle SKU that is on list with the liquor stores just to be able to sell their own. Yeah, it's so they can't even sell their own product at the distillery. They have to send people to a liquor store to go and buy it, because
when we first got our license, you weren't allowed to do tastings or sell. And then after we had our license for about a month or so, they changed it, and you were able to do the 2. So that happened about the time, about 8 years ago, I guess, 7.5 years ago is when they started doing that in Texas. So think of poor Tito back, because he's one of the first way back there. He spent most of his life in the parking lots of the college stadiums, giving away his vodka to get people to go out and buy it. And obviously it worked, because he sells more vodka than anybody else in the world. Right. it was a really good plan for back then, I guess. But that's what it took for him to get his product out. He had to give it away, and people, responded well to him. So.
Yeah, and like I don't know if it's distilleries across the U.S. or whatever, but I know in Texas, your guys' tasting room and whatnot, if you were going to make cocktails, you can't use any other kind of liquor. You have to use what's made at the distillery, right?
That is true. Let me tell you, I know how to roast and slice oranges and make a triple sec. Huh?
Nice. There you go, putting on a new hat.
And then I would do. I made some. I made a something similar to a Kahlua, and we would do. We did always our sweet and sour. I mean, we do moonshine. You know why we do moonshine? Because we use it in place of tequila.
There you go.
Ah,
because you have kind of that raw spirit and that sweetness, and so it worked for those. So you get really creative, and
it's the mother of invention, I guess, right?
Well,
you're the mother of whiskey, and
there are people that are far, far superior to me, and they will go out and they'll make their, just a wide variety of liqueurs and all these other things to do to keep it open. And when you depend on your tasting room and your events and your cocktails, that's what you have to do. When we're in Denison, Texas, we had to depend on a distributor more. Because we are in a boat dealership, we don't have the pretty venues and things. So it was a blessing for us when COVID hit, because we already were in, that's how we always operated was, that direction. We only opened the bar one day a month, and that was it. So we weren't as far behind once COVID hit, because it was how we always did business.
Right.
I'm tasting a little St. Sally right now, and it's a nice 100 proof. I love that 100 proof. If we're just sipping, when you taste a whiskey, what is it that when you taste a whiskey, you say, I like this, and what is it about it that you like? I like something that when I sit here and I taste it, I want a nose. I want to be able to smell. Some people don't care about the nose. Some people don't. Some people only care if it's got a good finish. Some people want the mouthfeel. Some people, I want it all. No,
I do too.
I want it all.
I want it all. Like for me, it's when something, especially if it catches me off guard, and comes out of left field. So, quite often it'll be nice bottle pop.
Whoa.
It's for me, it's that thing that I might not even like a whiskey, but if I'm running a lineup, if I'm at a tasting and I'm going back and forth, if there's something that just I can't figure it out, it just gets me, and I have to keep coming back to it to try and figure out what the heck is going on with it. That'll be the one that I'm like, okay, I don't remember anything else. Everything else might have been really nice and easy. It might have tasted really good, but it didn't engage me. I want that something that's going to really,
make you think,
get me make me think, and make it high proof, because then I can play with my food. I can add some water.
I like it. I also like it when I sit here and as I'm drinking it, I want it to kind of evolve.
I do too.
A little bit. I want more flavors. I want a second chapter to that.
The ever-changing whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ever-changing whiskey. I just popped the Redbreast PX. I had William run back and grab it for me.
Oh man.
Finished it.
Nice.
Hogshead. We got lucky finding this one because they are very apparently hard to find. And we found it for not an outrageous price. So
nice.
Lucky.
Well, I'm working on a couple of pours of this one. So this is a locally produced one. It's a couple of guys. They are sourcing from a distillery just south of town that's been around for 40 or so years. And then they're doing different finishing experiments. And so this one is an 18-year-old Canadian whiskey that was finished in brandy casks for 12 months. So it's really interesting. And they're bottling them at cask strength. They've got something. They actually messaged me about it because they're trying to figure out how they're going to position it. They're going to be doing a release of a 37-year-old whiskey finished in Armagnac, I think.
So if it's Canadian, the rye whiskey?
No, so this is, I think, primarily a corn rye blend. So this one that they're coming out with is a 37-year that's been finished for 30 months in Armagnac barrels, and that's part of the 37 years. They are releasing it at cask strength, 80% ABV, not 80 proof, 80%. I'm like, holy smokes, that sounds crazy.
That's almost hazmat.
Well, I mean, your hazardous goods is 70%.
Yeah.
So
almost there, but
I'm going to say it's 140. So it's well over.
So it'll be 160 proof. 160 proof, which is kind of crazy, but
that's
so
my kind of
that's my. I'm like, ooh, that sounds kind of interesting. So I mean, the thing is that I just
I'm gonna have to say, if you get one of those, I want a sample of that one.
I'm gonna have to.
They keep all the good stuff up there, Marcia. They don't share the good stuff with us. Across the board.
My brain is it's only because I haven't been to Texas in 2 years.
You haven't been to Texas in 2 years, and that needs
3
to
years.
happen.
3 years.
You're overdue. You're overdue.
I'm way overdue. I was supposed to be there last year, and it didn't happen. But I've already told Daniel
the 160 proof before you come down.
Yes, please. Yeah, if you do that, I'm going to need a sample of that. And I'm going to need a sample of that Teeling, and I'll set aside one of my kelp bottles for you. Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll figure something out. But that's what I'm sipping on. So it's, it's actually kind of interesting because it reminded me of when we were talking about tannic, and when I started sipping this one, I'm like, that I was trying to remember. So, have you ever tasted a whiskey that is unpeated, but you would almost swear that it's got some peat in it?
It's got a funk to it.
It's got a funk to it. And it took me far too long to actually kind of finally put it together that what I was actually tasting was a wood note. And it was usually in older whiskeys or in whiskeys that had that sort of more wood forward. And it was those tannins that were, making it. I was like, okay. All of a sudden, my brain made that connection. It's like, no, this isn't peat. It's vegetative, but this is wood that I'm tasting. And and in some cases, it can be overpowering and offensive. And other times, it's just kind of like, ooh, that starts to settle in. And it's usually around that 20-year mark that I start to pick that note up. So this one being 18, it's got that in there, but it's also got a nice sweetness from the brandy cask.
I'm just smelling my glass, and I don't even have it in it. I'm like, oh man, I can't find it.
So now I'm doing it side by side with my Shelter Point, which was, I'm like, because that's sometimes the best way to get the differences out. Like, as much as I've always liked this Shelter Point one with the blackberry, when I first pour it, I don't always get the aromas. Mm-hmm. Doing it side by side with something else, I love being able to do that. It definitely, I feel like I get more of what this has done, what the wine cask has done to that whiskey, and I get more of what the brandy cask did to the other one. Funny how our brains work, though.
That you might not pull out on its own.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to, since it's the end of the season for hubris, I think I'll have some hubris. And besides, I'm going to say this. you might need to be getting used to corn whiskey, because I'm listening to the difficulties on barrels. When we first started, you couldn't get barrels, and Jonathan picked it up with he's on a whiskey group, and on last week, and they're saying there's a tremendous barrel shortage, and they're like sold out, and I'd already and we and they're talking like Independence Stave, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's where I get mine. And so I got on the phone at 7:30 in the morning to talk to the person, and he basically told me that they're 53, they were gone. There's just nothing available. So I was able to secure barrels for us. See, this is my job, securing barrels for us for this year. And the same thing, we'd had with the glass, but all of a sudden it was Monday. There's not that. And then it's also, people, and a lot of small distilleries are using the MGP. We're using MGP, and there won't be any aged MGP for 2 years. It's sold. So
oh my goodness,
I don't know who purchased all of this stuff. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the next bit. I mean, it was one thing. It was glasses. It was, glass. And I think some people are still struggling with glass right now. And especially certain types of glass. We were looking like for some smaller ones, and they're not even going to think about doing those, because they're not able to hit their numbers for their full size glassware. And I've been very fortunate to have locked down what I need, but I'm hearing that if you have people that are new to the industry, or you have people that are like we were, I never thought about it. You call them up, and then you put your order in, you'd send them their money, and then voila, 6 weeks later you would have your barrels. Now you're not quite sure when you're going to get any of these things, but right now I saw a thing, I think maybe it was through Bourbon Women, but they were talking about that even the production, the growth of the oak trees and things, and if all of these are going to affect the ability for people to get brand new charred oak barrels, voila, here we go.
Right.
We're working on hubris, and hubris has always done well. So we can see what happens when we reuse those barrels again and again, right?
Yeah, like Steve posted further up a little bit. Where'd it go? I find myself wondering if we're going to need to change the rules on bourbon to allow reused barrels. If we're having a barrel shortage, that, like they said, I've been watching the chat here too. Glass is easy to come by. We can always find glass. It's reusable, recyclable, all of that. But oak?
Well, they should. It was not easy to get, and in fact,
not distribution issues with it too.
There's a problem with glassware, because we'd heard somebody. I'd mentioned one major group that I was thinking of getting some as just a backup, and they said be careful, because what they're doing now is they'll say, I'll sell it, will you buy them at $130 a piece? Yeah, I'll buy them. And then they'll go to you, Theresa, and they'll say, will you pay $1.35? And you say, yeah, I'll do it. And then they'll go to Sarah, and Sarah $1.04. And I'm talking to some of the big guys, and all of a sudden you thought you had bottles for, and they come back to me and say, I'm sorry, we've already sold your bottles.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that is going on now. So there is barrels, but the difference with the barrels, you got to think, is that even if they change the law, what does it do to the flavor? It is the flavor of the bourbon that depends on the brand new charred oak barrel. Once you put it in, as far as I'm tasting Hubris, and Hubris, I mean, Hubris is one of the best corn whiskey in the world 3 times. It's good whiskey, but it does not have the oak tannins that you get from the bourbon, nor does it have the color and things. So it's going to, it would really changes the profile to whether you want to still call it bourbon, it is still going to be corn whiskey.
Right? Yeah,
right.
Will we start to maybe see a rise in the number of American whiskeys, because American whiskey doesn't have that same casking requirements. It also doesn't have the mash bill requirements, so you can get some flexibility in terms of what your flavor profiles are going to be. But
I mean, you have seen a giant explosion of American single malt whiskeys.
Well, and that's another one, because they finally, now I don't know, they were saying that they were going to have that
they're working on.
Is it I know it's,
they finalized all of the details,
requirements.
I know that they finally had something from TTB back in the fall saying, okay, we're most of the way there, and they thought it would be in place for the start of this year, but I don't know if that, I hadn't actually read if that had happened yet or not. So
the last conversation that I had with, when we had, it was not last Monday, but the Monday before, I believe, or the Monday before that, a couple Mondays ago, we had Virginia Distillery, we had Balcones, we had Westland, and I just had a brain fart, Iowa, Cedar Ridge. We had, American single malts, one from each section of the United States, essentially. And there wasn't anything final at that point. So that was just a couple Mondays ago.
Okay.
But that particular category is exploding.
It is,
and I don't believe they have has to be in a
single malts have always, in fact, traditionally been in used bourbon
barrels. So
and then a lot of finishing barrels with it. So that you'll see different whiskeys, but the category of bourbon may become even a little bit smaller. I don't know.
If you're gonna want to drink on this now. So this is a
Westland.
It's a barrel pick that we did with Jason from the Mash and Drum. Here's our tater sticker.
I like that one.
And so this is 123.4 proof. It's the barrel that we picked. We had 4 different ones to choose from, and we had a unanimous decision on this particular one. So since I was talking about single malt, American single malt, that's one of the distilleries.
It is. Yeah, Westland is great. And I think that we're going to see a lot happening in that category in the United States. And it'll be interesting to see how they still don't they still are very distinctly different than Scotch. And I love the fact that they're creating their own flavor profiles and styles within the category, because the same thing we said, there's no reason Kentucky makes phenomenal whiskeys, but other people don't need to create Kentucky whiskeys because they have they do a great job on their own. Let's explore something else. And so I think that's the same thing with American single malt, as opposed, let's not recreate. I think that some of the other countries that have come out with single malts in the past have really tried to emulate identically what the Scotch was. And I'm glad to see the distillers in the United States creating a single malt and letting it grow like like we let Texas bourbon grow from and just widen the category and the different profiles we're allowed to experience. So I think it's there's a lot of room for experiment. There's a lot of growth, and I think it's exciting times to be in the single malt.
I'm happy to say that we have at least the 2 distilleries in Texas that are doing single malts, being Balcones and Andalusia. I'm not sure of any others that are like doing that exclusively in their, core lines of stuff. I know Balcones does the wide range of, they've got their pot stills, they've got their bourbon, they got their single malt.
But when you look at Balcones, from day one, Chip Tate, and I'm probably going to get hit for mentioning that in the same name, but his training was in Scotland. And the first big award that came through that knocked Balcones into the recognition, in a wide market was that best of glass or something like that. The specific category that they beat out the Scotches in, and so they have always been very strong, and they've always that is when they used to kid me because Keith he used to who was the head of the Balcones down there, and for a long time after they started the new distillery. Every time somebody came up here, he said, "Oh, if you're going to IronRoot, you got to take Marcia some of our single malt." He always sent me single malt because I always loved it.
Oh my goodness. It's an exciting time for whiskey, just across the board. There's so much going on that is amazing, and it's exciting to see.
Speaking of, William just handed me a cask strength.
That's a Striker?
No, it's the triple distilled. So,
don't you just love them down at Andalusia?
Well,
I like their whiskey, and I love the people.
William is a rep for them up here in the DFW area now.
Who is?
William, my husband.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's been since December. So yeah, so he's been, I guess you could say, whoring out the Andalusia and DFW area. But
he's hawking it. He's not whoring it. He's hawking it at all.
Yeah, especially when he comes home with more bottles of whiskey that are not Andalusia than he gets into the stores because, oh baby, look, oh baby, I found this. Ooh, because he's going into all these liquor stores that we wouldn't have gone in otherwise. We're pretty, steady on we're going to go where our local mom and pop is, but now he's got to go all around, which is how he found the PX Redbreast and amongst other things that have come into my house.
Sarah, you're not complaining.
I am not.
I didn't hear complaining on that.
I did have to cut him off a little bit because it was like every single week he's bringing home a couple of bottles. I'm like, you didn't get a job just to turn around and spend all the money.
Yes, I did.
Oh, there's him.
Well, but then you have to start having the parties where you have everybody over to taste, because if you don't get rid of some of those bottles, then you don't have any space.
I'm running out of places to put them, Marcia.
Yeah,
I mean, they're overflowing into my office back there, and that's tempting because I'm working from home, so all the good stuff goes back in my office. But
you don't want to end up like Matt, where he has boxes piled everywhere and on floors, and
he's standing back behind the camera shaking his head like this. I'm like, no. But I get text messages sometimes a couple times a day. Sometimes he'll skip a day, but it's a picture of a bottle with the price tag and sometimes that's all it is. And I
You
just
know,
have
when
to
I
feel
used to go out and do tastings, I would send them back when I was out to Robert and Jonathan. And when I would go out, I would send them and say, this is what I'm seeing. But we haven't been out much. So so the temptation and you know, we don't have, you know, the liquor stores up here are not the ones that get all of the allocated stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not necessarily allocated that he's seeing. It's just the bottles that we've kind of been looking for, just keeping an eye out for, like the red breast. Yeah, I tried it and I like it. And if we can find it at a good price, he found it at a good price.
Octomore. Marcia's always looking for Octomore.
William is too. So
I love my Octomores. That was so, you know, you asked about, you know, what makes something, you know, stand out for you. And I can tell you exactly where I was when I had my first Octomore, and it was stunning. It was something, it caught me completely off guard. I expected it to be good. And then it was even more than I like. It was one of those whiskeys that sort of came at a turning point for me, because I had started to build an appreciation for peat. And then somebody, you know, I was at a store at lunch and they did lunch hour Friday tastings, and they poured me the Octomore 10 year. And all of a sudden I was tasting something beyond just the peat, and it was a breakthrough thing. I couldn't stop thinking about that Octomore 10 year for over a year. And then I was at a festival, got to try it again. And I'm like, okay, I can't walk away from this. And I'm like, it's, you know, in my neck of the woods, it's almost $300 to buy this bottle. I'm like, I had never spent that much on whiskey before. That was the first bottle that I dropped serious coin on, because I couldn't stop thinking about it for an entire freaking year.
You know, we lucked out that one of the little goodies in like Anna, Texas, and walked in, and there it was, you know, and it's one of those that I may hoard. It probably isn't seen out where other people could find it. I have a few of those, you know, that
you gotta hide it from yourself even sometimes.
Yeah, and that, and Rob lets everybody taste. He is the, you know, he's always sharing everybody who comes in the door. No, I have a few things that I have to keep under lock and key.
Yeah, it's one of those bottles where if William were to find one, and that's the thing, to find it first of all, you know, but and get it, he'd be, I have to hide it from myself, because when am I going to find one and spend that money again on it, type of thing, you know. It's just a special occasion.
I know. Oops, you just got muted, Sarah. I see people. I don't know. There we go.
I hit the cord. Oh well.
So yeah, there are so many wonderful things that I've picked up at different places, and my son, he always gives me a hard time, because there was one of those. I was in Europe, and it was at Cadenhead, and they had one of those Blantons, and I know it was one of those fancy ones with the gold horse on it, and you know, all of these and whatever. And I looked at it, and I did not buy it. I bought a 50-year-old cognac that was a special pick for them. And I remember Robert saying, well, if you would have bought the Blantons, you could have sold it, and you could have paid for your Cadenheads, Mom.
There you go.
I don't do secondary. You know, that's more than I can handle. I'm not doing. If I'm going to buy it, I'm going to drink it. And I wanted the cognac instead, because I would drink it.
If I'm going to buy it, I'm going to drink it, and I'm not going to buy it at secondary, especially something like Blanton's. I mean, I have a bottle of Blanton's right up there. It's been sitting there for quite a while, because it's just not, you know, it's just there. It's a great beginner whiskey.
You know what? That's what happened, Sarah. When we went, when Rob, remember, you probably heard me tell the story that, once he decided he wasn't going to practice law, he finished school and his apartment complex burned down. Yep. The day that, when and he lost everything. So when he came home, we're staring at each other. And finally I said, well, it's only 4 hours to Louisville. Let's go do the whiskey trail. But we went over to Louisville. And we ended up, running into Vendome, which was fate. But we went to a brewery, and we're sitting there at the brewery, and we said, "I want to taste whiskey." And but at that point, 6th Street only had, it was like one whole big thing of Jim Beam and one whole big thing of Maker's Mark, and all of them were separate. And, right. For God's sake, when you're starting whiskey, how can you remember from one bar to the next, right? And so she sent us to this local little place that had a flight, and we tasted it. And I don't know anything about whiskey. I'm a wine drinker, right? And I got to Blanton's, and I looked at Rob, and I said, I think if whiskey tastes like this, I can drink it. And, and so when you say that was my first introduction to something I felt was something I would enjoy. And I think I can do this whiskey thing with you. Blanton's was what opened the door for me. And like you said, I've got Blanton's, I always have Blanton's, but it's maybe not my go-to anymore. But it was buried place for me.
It's buried behind a bunch of Stag Junior, actually.
Yeah. Where did you get all the Stag Junior? They didn't even release that this year, did they?
The last one I have is last year's release, so 2021 batch 16, I think it was. But that one I actually got from Jason from Mash and Drum. I won it on his channel and through Super Chat raffle, whatever. And we got gifted a partial bottle of another one. And I think I have 4 bottles up there, and we've actually only bought 2 of them. That we got lucky that Matt knows people at Goody Goody over here. And at one point he was just like, hey, they've got a bottle of Stag Junior over at Goody Goody in Colleyville. And I was like, okay, I'm going over. He says, okay, ask for this person. I'm like, okay. So we got kind of lucky in that aspect of it, but it's been a while since I've actually seen one on the shelf.
I found one in the shelf in a little liquor store in when we went home before we moved. But it's fun. I think when you talk about, everybody talks about Stag Junior and all of these funny things. I remember I listened to all these people talk, and they always throw out they can't ever say what the name of it is. They gotta go ECBP. I think it took me 1.5 years to figure out what
the codes.
I need a code book. We need to put one of those together and pass them out so that people that are into it,
I'd like one.
Yeah, I need those codes so I can translate when keep up with them, so I don't look like like the old lady trying to use new technology.
You're Googling it all.
Yeah, I still just write everything out, and it always takes me a minute. Like, it took me a while to figure out BTAC. And I'm like, what? And then I had some. I'm like,
and then you need Four Roses needs to have its own code book.
Yes,
because of all the yeast strains they have. And Stag Junior, they need to start putting the batch on the bottle instead of, you have to go by the proof and you have to look it up, because this proof equals batch 15 and this proof equals batch 16. It's too much. You know
what I love is when I sit with people and they can sit there and they'll have this discussion and they'll say, well, this batch I like this in, and this batch I like that in, but this one was the best. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, I can hardly remember what I had for lunch.
All right.
I mean, is it good? Isn't it good?
So I had to go and grab this one here. It is a Jura. And this one was finished in rosé casks, or sparkling rosé casks. And the reason I had to pull this one out is because, again, it's finished, so it sort of fits with some of our aging discussion. But it was also one that I was, when I was working for the local distillery and doing a tasting at a store, and the spirits manager comes over and is like, "Oh, well, if you like whiskey," because we were talking about everything, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna just." And so he goes and he comes back with a glass. He's like, "Here, try this." And I'm like, trying to figure this out. I'm like, okay, well, this is definitely a Scotch. It's definitely like, it's got this maltiness to it. It's got a slight pink hue to it as well, but it doesn't taste sherried. It's definitely some sort of a wine cask. I couldn't put my finger. I'm like, this is light. It's just really, really nice. And so I ended up, then he showed me what it was all about, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And that was another one about a year and a half later when I was doing a tasting at a different store. They still had some of this on the shelf, and I went and I'm like, all right, $150. Take my money, give me the bottle.
I can't say that I've had anything finished in a rosé.
It's sparkling rosé too. Like,
yeah, because that's a very light pink wine.
So what flavor does it add to it? What does it do to the?
Yeah,
because I like Jura.
It's still very, very light. It almost adds a vaguely port influence. Like it's almost like a bit of a light strawberry that comes over top. And it's cask strength. I think it's 55 and odd %, I think. It's just nice.
Interesting. It's interesting. I'm going to have to keep my eye
very
out.
Light.
Rosé finishes. It's not something you see very often in whiskey. You see your sherries and your ports, like you mentioned, but a lighter wine.
I know, right? So this one, Loire Rosé Sparkling Wine, cask finish, vintage 1997, bottled in August 2013. So the first time I had it was probably in 2018, and I bought it in 2019. So it was already like, the reason I couldn't get the cork out is because the cork that came with it disintegrated as soon as I tried to get into it. So it's got a synthetic cork that doesn't quite fit, but at least I know it's a tight seal.
Synthetic corks are amazing.
They're the bomb.
But I am known for just tilting my bottles every time I touch them, just to, hate to use this word, but moisten the cork.
Yeah. Glass is also pretty cool too.
I break that.
Well, I'm going to have to just walk over and get something else here, because you all are
I know. I was going to stick to 2 whiskeys tonight. And
that's what I did. I had my cognac, and I was thinking I'm sticking with the same thing. I'm not going to.
That's probably my fault.
Yeah,
because
it's
totally.
It's okay.
Yeah, everybody in the chat, you can agree with us that it's Sarah's fault that we're drinking too much.
I do live streams with Matt. That's all I have to say about that. I do live streams with Matt, and it is not uncommon for us to do 12, 15 plus samples a night. And I mean, I'm talking, we'll drink, we get these little sample bottles from Matt, and we just do little pours. And I actually have my wee IronRoot Glencairn.
Oh, don't you love the wees? I like, my favorite though is this one. I got this little button with stem.
Well, that one makes you want to stick your pinky out more.
Well, you know what? If you're holding it correctly, like this.
You're gonna be proper about it.
You can be proper about it.
I'm the furthest thing from proper. And
you know what they say though? It's interesting that when they're doing the nosing and things, they the stemmed. The capitas actually they like the nose and on it when you're doing higher proof. So they're doing.
Is it wider than a regular Glencairn, or is it the
capita is almost a little more not quite as tulip shaped, not quite as much of the bulge.
It's almost like it's almost like a stunted champagne flute in some ways.
Gotcha.
But this one kind of is a combination.
I don't know if that's going to show up very well. So this is a special glass that I was gifted, and it's got a really nice glass top too. I haven't pulled it out.
But the way it goes over the top, because I had one that kind of put in the center, and I was always forever dropping them off.
I got a Glenmorangie copita that had a topper that fit inside, and I knocked it off out of the cupboard, and the topper is gone.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, I'm like, ooh.
That's what I use challenge coins for. I don't need that glass on glass stuff.
Yeah. Well, go get another pour there, Marcia.
Something else. Where is?
Yeah.
Speaking of finished whiskeys, I'm looking and not seeing where William put it.
William, your wife needs help.
You're in trouble. I found it.
What are you looking for?
Nope, I didn't find it. I'm looking for balcones finished in port.
Balcones finished in port.
It's a rye.
Yeah.
William Poppy.
I got to show you this. We have a guy that down here that's making these for us. Jeff. And when he fits it into the Glencairn, let me show you this. Because I had to go get Redbreast because you've been talking Redbreast. I'm just behind. So I'm going to put the Redbreast and wait till you see this. These are awesome. Especially when we pour and then we come back and you let it sit and everything. He has it. He tools it and has it. He's got it with. He's made it with our logo on it and stuff. But it has a little seal. Look at this.
Oh, nice. Oh, I've seen.
Oh, I love that. So yeah, Jeff has made these. I told him I should get some and put them on our website and sell them because it's just nice because you can leave it overnight and come back and visit it, and it's great.
That's I'm any one of those. Okay, I'll be right back. I gotta get this bottle, dig this bottle out real fast.
See all these bottles everywhere. And it's just you. Oh, she even leaves. See how?
Oh, she's like full on.
Yeah,
I see her in the background there.
She's got the technology. I'm just got.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Which Redbreast?
You're muted now.
15th.
Oh, nice.
15, yeah.
I had to stand up and I've got jammy pants on, so I was gonna keep my jammy pants to myself. They're Star Wars, but
yeah. Who cares, right? It is night. Well, here it's 9:30 at night. It's your jammy pants, right?
I pulled out. We were talking some balcones earlier. I pulled out their rye. It's a cast strength, but speaking on finishes, it's finished in a port barrel. It's finished in port. So this was one of their distillery only releases that we happened to be going down to Bastard's Ball. No.
We have we always have a nice collection of
when you go down to
and delicious. Well, or they come up. We've had a little bit of fun. Might have distilled a little brandy in our small distill with them, and we just that's what I said. There's so much little projects and fun relationships. Texas has got so many great distilleries and people in the distilleries. It's a lot of fun.
Pinot. Sorry.
Oh,
Pinot.
A red wine.
Okay, so, and that's different than Pinot de Charente.
It's got a lot of cleaning around it because somebody can't pour without dripping it down the bottle. But we picked that up on our way down to actually Somm class, Somm 2.
Mhm.
And we picked one up and we brought
Did
it
you
down.
graduate from Somm 2?
Yes.
Also with Emma and everybody?
Emma's Somm 3.
Oh.
It's the same as Theresa. Theresa is a Somm 3 too. William and I and Matt.
I'm so proud of you guys.
Huh?
I said I'm so proud of you guys.
We were down there in what was it? What month was it? August, I think it was. I think so, because we were sweating our asses off going from the rooms up to the tower. Even at 8 o'clock in the morning before class started, we're sweating our asses off. But we bought one on our way down, because of course you got to stop at Balcones if you're going to Austin. You're on 35.
Yeah.
Right. And we brought it to the kitchen of where the rooms are, and everybody brings whiskey, and we share down at the kitchen. And we opened it and we shared it, and we left it there. We left it in the vault because we liked it so much. And we were like, we don't need you to review this. We just want this in the vault so other people can, enjoy this.
Enjoy it. That's great.
And we stopped on the way home and picked up another one for us. So it's Balcones rye, especially their cast strength, to me is just so much chocolate, like Tootsie Roll, coffee bean chocolate, and then you add that Pinot finish to it, and it's like chocolate covered cherries, and just there's something about this finish. I love it a lot.
So something that we started to touch on a little bit before we went live. In my club tasting last night, we were talking a little bit about doing a tasting of finishing versus double maturation. And so the one guy was saying that in his opinion, double maturation is once you get, so in Canada, we have to do minimum 3 years because we have that minimum aging requirement. So he's like, if you've done something at least 3 years or plus, and then you put it into something else for 3 years or plus, you're going to get a different experience than if you're just finishing. And Dr. Don Livermore from JP Weiser's and the Corby brands, he's got his master's in blending, or no, it's a doctorate. Sorry, Dr. Don, if you're watching, I know you're not, but my apologies. He has his doctorate in chemistry and specific to doing whiskey. And he said that what they found is that really for finishing, you get all of the finishing expectations out of the cask in about 200 days, I think he said. And then after that, you're getting back into what the wood from that cask is going to offer, which was sort of an odd thing to think about. He's like, yeah, we can get everything that we need from it as a finishing in less than a year.
Yeah,
I had never really thought about that because you're only getting into the wood just so much, and then you've extracted that. So I thought, So
you do.
Where do we start?
And most of the ones when I see double oaked, I don't know why, but my mind goes to most of them are bourbons, and they're putting them in 2 brand new charred barrels, rather than a barrel that has held something else. Is which would be the same thing. You're still going more when you're talking about the double. You're going to the wood directly. When we're doing our finishing, we're looking 6 to 8 months. So that's about, and it's going to depend. Sometimes if it's the first time we're finishing in the barrel, it will, you'll leave it less time. The next time you might, leave it longer because you're going to go a little bit further in, especially this is why I think it's important when we're doing our finishing is that we are using the barrels that have held the 25-year-old Armagnacs and cognacs, and not doing we're not putting liquid in it. Yeah, we're not seasoning it, because if it sits there, if you season it, you really you can't leave it in there very long at all, because you're going to go directly to the wood.
Right.
Whereas the longer it's been sitting in there, the deeper it goes into the wood, the more you can extract it and over the time. And then that's why we can use it a second time.
So I'm interested because I've heard, talking to some other distilleries that get, used X wine barrels of whatever sort it might be, or whatever the case may be, they're going to use for finishing. When they get their barrels, some of the time there's still some liquid in it. When you guys get yours, is there still any kind of liquid in it, or are they dried and
most of them are by the time they get here, there is no liquid in it.
Are they even moist at all, or are they just all dried out and you're just working with?
Most of them are they're not dry enough that the integrity of the barrel is being is a problem. Sometimes it is, and in order to do it without impacting the finish within it, we will put like a steamer in it, just to get enough heat in there to expand
Loosen it up a little bit.
You don't want to add water to it because
right.
you're washing it out, right, and losing the essence of the barrel itself. But most of them come in and they're fresh dumps there, but they don't generally have anything in it, and if they do have it in it, we wouldn't leave it in there, because we do know that if they put anything in there, so when it travels, it's usually not the quality of the cognac or the spirit that we really want. But the ones we get in are usually what I would consider dry.
I was curious about that, because I mean, you said you're getting yours from France, and would they even leave a little bit in that might evaporate over the travel time, just to kind of keep the barrel's integrity a little?
And most of them have also been when we get it, they've also been to a cooperage, and the cooperage will redo the rings and things on it. So no, there's not liquid for us when we.
Gotcha.
I've heard with sherry and wine, you have to be careful, because part of the issue versus something like an aged spirit is that there's that propensity for mold to form inside. And so if they're shipping fresh sherry casks, then they'll actually ask you, from what I've heard, they'll ask the distillery, so how much sherry do you want us to leave in? So the guys up north in Yukon at Yukon 2 Brewers, they ordered up a PX cask. And when they had it shipped, they're like, well, so how much do you want us to leave in there for you? And so they like, I don't know, like 20 liters. Okay, sure. So they got a PX cask.
Their barrel, because our PX nobody's ever asked me that before.
Oh, they got asked, so how much do you want us to leave in there? They got 20 liters of PX sherry.
Just to drink them.
and they poured it out, and they're like, yeah. So they drank some of it. They kept some of it as well, so that they could kind of recharge the cask a little bit before they used it the second time.
And you'll have those distillers that say, whoa, it's got 20 this liters, and they'll leave it in, and that's when you get some that are PX sherry bombs, let's say.
Yeah.
Well, there's that, and I mean, and in Canada, we actually have that as something you can do, right? You can actually add an unaged wine or a young 2-year-old spirit up to a 1-to-10 ratio. Can be in that blend, and you can still call it whiskey. You don't have to specifically declare it.
Damn Canadians.
Well, it was. I don't know. That's a whole other thing, but yeah.
Now ours comes in, and it's still a distilled spirit specialty, because you can add coloring or flavoring to bourbon, but when we put that it's bourbon finished in, first of all, our philosophy for finishing is that a finish is truly a finish. It should, if you do not know what your base is, my question is, A, is there something wrong with your base? B, do you like your finish better than you like your spirit? I'm just being mean. But
totally fair.
So one of the things we really want you to know that you do have a bourbon base, and it's an elevation. It is a finish. It is exactly what it says it is. And so that's kind of our philosophy when we are doing ours. Now, that doesn't mean everybody has to have the same philosophy, but that's what we consider a truly, when we taste whiskeys that we think are well done, that are not ours and things, that's what we like about it. And those are the ones that we think are the style that we would like to continue. And so that's a way we look at it when we do a finish.
Right.
I still think you need to find out where they're getting their casks from and get a couple from them.
I mean, that's going back. That was got to be at least probably close to 5 years at this point now.
And see, I would take and maybe keep some of that to recharge the barrel per se, but I would keep some back so I could taste it against my finished product to see how much of that influence is coming in through the whiskey from the barrel versus the actual product.
Yeah, because when you don't know exactly what cooper or what distillery our barrels come from. We know what cooperages the woods come from.
Yeah,
but beyond that, we don't have all that information.
Well, I know we've been going here for a while, and I mean, it's nice to just kind of kick back, drink whiskey with friends, and have a really nice chill Sunday night. So, by no means do we have to wrap it up, but
you're also behind time. So
I know. I'm living in the past compared to y'all, so I know it's getting a little bit late.
To look forward to.
Yeah, it's getting later in Texas than it is in Alberta. So, yeah, if anybody's getting ready to tap out, I completely understand. But
this has really been fun.
So much fun.
And Theresa, I can't wait till you finally make it down here.
Yeah,
I know. I'm hoping. I've already told Daniel that I'm hoping to come down this year at some point. So he needs to get level 4. Well, I'll either try to come host a level 3. Level 2 or level 3. But if he gets level 4 off the ground this year finally, then I'll just
level
come back.
3. Come host level 3. I'm gonna take level 3.
At level 3, then they'll probably have enough for sure to hit that number 4.
Level 4.
Yeah, I know you have to have a certain number of people.
Interested parties. Yeah. Considering we've been doing this for 2 years now, Theresa? Has it been more? 3?
I think it's 2. It'll be 3. I think our first one, actually, Marcia, you were our first guest. And I think that was actually back in 2019. I think it was the summer of 2019 that we did our first one. And that was over on the I Whiskey She Wines.
That's right.
I remember. Before we created the channel. So all of this time we have been doing this, and I still have yet to meet you in person. So that needs to be remedied. And so if it were the other way around and I were to go to Canada, I don't know that I'd be coming back, because Texas. I love our whiskey.
So Theresa, are you in Vancouver?
Alberta.
No, I'm in Calgary, Alberta.
Oh, I know.
So I'm
because I was from Butte, Montana, and we used to do the rodeos in Calgary and Butte were always the same weekend, same weekend, just north. Yeah.
I the first time I went to the only time I've been to Vegas, we drove down to Kalispell and took because they had the cheap flights from Kalispell to Vegas. And it's only about a 4 or 5 hour drive, I think, from here to there. So, yeah.
You need to make your way down to Texas.
That's right.
Lots of people. I've already had this conversation with you. If you need some place to stay in Dallas, Fort Worth area, I've got a giant couch. I've got a futon. You can take my kid's bed. I'll kick him out. You know, he can sleep someplace else in the house. You've got a place.
All
so you need to get your ass down here somehow.
I do. I do, and I will, and it'll happen hopefully this year. Hopefully it's in the cards. I'm hoping it's in the cards. We'll see.
Well, you guys have a great season, I guess, with your channel, and I'll have to keep up with you better than I have been. And
you're a busy lady, so we're
will.
not going to hold that against you. You're a very busy lady doing very important things.
Well, we've and we got a lot of exciting things going on, and it was fun sharing with you all of the things at IronRoot, and
I'm so jealous that I can't just stop by and pick up some of that stuff.
Well, the crazy part is that we live not very far from Denison. I think it's like 45 minutes to an hour from Fort Worth to Denison, and we have still yet to make it up to IronRoot. Just the scheduling and COVID, don't even want to go there, but and the kid and all of that, and we need to buy some kelp so that we can go up and get it.
That's right. So then you have to come.
Yes. That's
the only way you can get it.
March 12th is on my calendar.
That's my dad's birthday.
Yeah.
It's on my calendar so that I know that I need to. Plus, I follow you on Facebook, IronRoot on Facebook and whatnot. So, but not only is that coming out, I think you said something before we went live.
There's hazmat coming out.
Yes. Because you have the hazmat coming out too,
and that's always these aren't big releases, but they're always popular releases. So
hazmat, I'm always down for hazmat. Always.
Me
that
too.
Just sounds like something I need, but
you do, you really do, because you like high proof, and you really do. I have a sample of the last hazmat release over there.
And guess what? It doesn't drink like over 140.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all.
You know what? The few times that I've been able to have spirit that is that high proof, it is kind of shocking just how
drinkable.
Approachable. I wouldn't say friendly, but it's definitely approachable. Because you expect you're going to get blown out, like when you open a bottle of isopropyl to disinfect a cut or something, and you that's
well, you have the barrel to help it out.
Yes.
And then Steve is dropping some links for us. Donald's dropped the Discord. We got IronRoot's link for Marcia. They're also over on Instagram as well. Theresa's Instagram. She's also over on Facebook. And then me and my assistants, Will and Matt, as Steve puts it, our Whiskey Crusaders YouTube. We're also on Facebook and Instagram as well. And we'll be live tomorrow night at 9:30.
What are you doing tomorrow night?
Marcia,
what is there tomorrow night?
Couldn't tell you.
Tomorrow is Monday.
She has staff room. Worry about that.
My assistants are slackers, and I usually don't find out what our live stream is going to be until I wake up Monday morning, because Matt will post the link overnight, or it's later in the day on Monday, and I'm like getting off of work at 2:30, and I'm like, okay, where's the link? I don't know. So I don't remember.
I have to show this off. I meant to show it off at our last stream, because our last stream was about gift whiskeys. So this is something I picked up. There was a local artisan people, and they were making these at Christmas. And then I had to go and buy my little mini bottles of JD. So I got all the different ones I could find. I bought 4 of these little, things, and it just snaps in. And I was like, that is just so cute. And so now I have it hanging up in my whiskey nook. But they had one of those little laser. Isn't that sweet?
That's really cool. That's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
I've never.
So, anyways, I had to show that off. I meant to mention it last month, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so cute. So we actually, when I posted that I bought it, and then I did a post with it because they didn't know who I was. And then they messaged me like, thanks for showing it off. And then they're like, maybe we need to do a Canadian Whiskey Smith release of something next year. I'm like, ooh, so who knows? Maybe next year I'll have my own I'll find a bottle of something that I want to highlight, and we'll get them to do a laser cut that the bottle fits in.
Do it to it. I'll post tomorrow on Facebook and Instagram when I figure out what our live stream's about. So keep an eye out for that, everybody in the chat there. But Marcia, it has, as always, been a pleasure. We enjoyed chatting with you, and I will be seeing you soon, sometime after March 12th, very closely there too. Is it kid friendly? Can I bring my kid?
Oh yeah, trust me.
Okay.
Behind my fermenters, I've got TVs. Our grandkids are up here all the time. So
I was going to say, Marcia has her kids at the distillery all the time, like every freaking day.
Her kids are of legal drinking age.
Yeah, but Granger and Danica, in addition to our distillery manager jobs, John and I are in charge of pickup from school every day. And, and we take them to karate class, and we do, so we, when we say this is a family affair, it takes everybody, because if dad's running the still and mom's working, guess what?
Somebody's got to pick up the kids.
Somebody's got to pick up those kids.
Well, that fixes a lot of problems for us if we can't get somebody to keep him, for some time, but we can always
like somebody like my kids, grandkids, all you do is plug them into something, and
he's got his tablet, he's got his switch, he's got headphones so we don't hear it.
Trust me, the switch hits the TV behind the fermenters all the time.
Yep.
So we got you covered.
Excellent. That makes it even easier, because he always wants to go where we go.
Good friends.
To good friends.
Thanks for inviting me.
Cheers, everybody. We'll see you next month.
Bye. Bye-bye.